Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the show where AI goes from hype to habit. I'm your host, Rajeev Sajja. Each week, we make AI approachable and actionable for real estate professionals who want to stay ahead of the curve. From lead generation to listing presentations, from marketing strategy to client experience, you'll hear how top agents and industry leaders are using AI to work smarter, save time, and grow their business. So whether you're just getting started or already experimenting with AI tools, this podcast gives you ideas you can use right now. Now let's get to this week's special guest. Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash. I can't believe we're in 2026 and I have a good guest today to kick off a new year that I think is going to be transformative on many fronts with the topic at hand as well. So I have Kevin Hawkins, president of the Wav Group, aka the real AI guy. We're going to get to that a little bit, obviously, and that's why he's on the podcast. And Kevin and I go way back. We've sort of bumped into each other at many events last year, 2025, specifically at the Housing Wire AI Summit and a few others. And Kevin has a very interesting perspective because also, if you're watching this on the podcast, we're going to talk about his book, which is The Real AI Guide. He has a very interesting perspective because he sort of zooms out and looks at the industry and also zooms in and see how the value is for the agent. So Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Happy New Year and welcome to you. It's going to be an exciting year this year in the age of AI. We're clearly in the middle of it, but we're
sure.
early innings. You know, it's like the first inning and all the laws and regulations are in the batter's box. This might be the year
Yeah.
that comes out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I gave you like a quick intro. So I'd love for you to take our listening audience through your journey and how you got into real estate and bring us to today.
Sure. Yeah, I got tricked into real estate. I did not plan a real estate career. I was at USC going to Annenberg grad school, and I was getting my master's in public relations, and I needed a part-time job to pay for that expensive tuition. So I went to work for a local PR agency, and they specialized in both entertainment and in high tech. And I loved the entertainment side for about 10 minutes. But my old boss was the PR guy for Liberace. So I actually started in LA at Liberace's PR firm. But what people didn't know, he's also had this huge tech side to what he did. And that's what I leaned into. So as a young guy, I'm going to Comdex, CES. I'm looking at the launch of Lotus 123 Jazz and doing these press announcements and stuff. And so it was a great formative year of turning me into, kind of a tech background very early on. But I got tricked into real estate because I went right after I was finishing my grad studies. I needed a full-time job and I interviewed with a top agency in LA. And I thought, oh, this is my gig. I'm going to work in agency. This will be fun. I've already cut my teeth a little bit in it. And they said, yeah, we don't want you. We want you to go work for our client. And the client was Great Western. And Great Western was one of the largest S&Ls in the industry. And they brought me on to develop their realtor program. So they had never really done outreach to realtors, and they realized that it was really expensive to advertise to consumers. But if you could get connected to realtors with loan officers, that was where the magic happens. And that's what I cut my teeth on. I wrote How to Shop for a Loan, How to Shop for Home, 2 million copies distributed through realtors to their buyers and sellers. So my whole entry into real estate was a long time ago, and I've never left.
It seems like, people that get into the industry hardly leave, right? It's like Hotel California. You can check
Yeah,
out and never leave.
it's
Uh,
so true, and we're all 2 degrees of separation, right?
yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
Rajiv, I've known you for a long time through a lot of different transitions in my career. You've been at the same place for a very long time, but I've always admired people like you. And by the way, your title's wrong. It should be Chief AI Officer. I think that they need to update your title because watch what you do in this industry, and that really is what it should be. But I'll tell you the one thing that's really been great about you through all the years is you've made this technology world so accessible to agents and so understandable to agents, so practical to agents. And this program does the same thing. And that's really what the Real AI Guy was invented for, and what it's all about is we created this newsletter with my son, who is a graduate, right after the pandemic, couldn't find a job, started work for me and had through high school as my editor because he's really, really good, super smart. And he became my editor for the Real AI newsletter, which we launched in August 20. 23, 23rd of August, 2023. It's easy to remember. And I remember we're up, 117 issues just through the towards the end of the year. So it's been really a fun journey. And the best thing about it is I've worked with agents my entire career. I've stayed close to them. I've understood, even though I've worked in the corporate world where we're 35,000 feet above the agents. You're right. I do have an interesting perspective because I also was a loan officer for 8.5 years. And I
Yeah, for
lived
sure.
on my relationship with real estate agents to make a living. I mean, to pay the mortgage,
Yeah.
literally. So I think that's a perspective that has guided me to combine my AI and really tech experience and background as really unusual for a communications person who got their degree in communication to do something like this.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great background and backstory, obviously, with your background as well. So, Kevin referenced the newsletter. We're going to put all the links in the show notes, by the way, so you can kind of subscribe to his
Thank you.
newsletter, get connected to all the things that Kevin produces, including his book, which we'll talk about here soon. So, what was your first like light bulb moment with saying, "Oh, holy moly, this is going to be transformative"?
So can I give you two? Can I have two first light
Yeah,
bulb
for
moments?
sure. Yeah,
So the first one was 1994, I believe. I was at Fannie Mae. I was public affairs
yeah,
director, and I was looking for news stories for reporters. And they sent me to meet with these tech people who were on a really cool project. And I met with these two young people, and they were working on something called artificial intelligence. And I was just blown away at what they're telling me that this thing could do because they were talking about really predictive analytics, right? And
yeah,
looking at really machine learning stuff in terms of price of housing and some of the early things that they were in lab with. And so I did this interview, and afterwards they said, "Oh, you can't write about any of that." And I'm like,
Mm,
"Oh my God, this is like the most interesting thing I've ever learned, and I can't even talk about it." But the big light bulb, I'm sure it was for many people, was when I could get ChatGPT for the first time, and it was,
yeah,
I mean, it was just unbelievable. I remember that it was so good, so fast. It was like the first time I used Google in beta. And I went, I was in, Yahoo and Lycos and Alta Vista and all these really terrible search engines. And I went to Google and I went, oh my God. And it was the same thing with an iPhone or an iPad. The first time you pick it up, it has that incredible wow factor. And you're like, okay, now how can I use it? And so I
yeah,
immediately subscribed the minute it came out. I had to wait 3 days. I'll never forget. I was like checking my email every 10 minutes to see, was I able to subscribe yet? And once I did, I never looked back. And we really have seen, we use all of them. We subscribe to Claude and Gemini and even have Grok, and which I don't recommend to agents. I do to developers. But I'll tell you, we've used all the chat engines in different ways, and we've become accustomed to really testing them all the time to see what is the best one from an agent's perspective. How would they
yeah.
use it? What would they be interested in leveraging it for? So that's kind of guided all the stuff that we do for our own business, but also in working with real estate agents. And I will tell you that right now, ChatGPT to me, the paid version, and we recommend actually the business version because we want enterprise protection. Because most agents, really, a lot of them don't work for a great big brokerage like you do, where they have all those wonderful gates and guardrails protecting them. And so they really need to find a way to protect themselves. And that's really kind of the Swiss Army knife for agents
Yeah.
is ChatGPT because it does so many different things.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's kind of get into that, right? So obviously, one of the biggest ways you sort of learn what AI can do for you is actually experiment and be curious and kind of see, play around a little bit and kind of apply it to specific use cases. And you bring a very interesting perspective. Obviously, you play with stuff and you have a communications background, and you also give keynotes and talk to a lot of agents around the country. So it brings a different, very interesting perspective. And what we want to kind of leave our audience with your episode today, Kevin, is tried and true stuff, which can change months from now, a year from now, because of the way the speed
Yeah.
of AI is changing. But let's kind of give them tried tactics for agents that they can go apply today. And then we'll shift a little bit of our attention to brokerages and real estate companies in the space.
Yeah, that's great. And I've been everywhere from panels to meet face-to-face meetings on the floor of the Florida Realtor conventions doing Q&As for 2 hours straight
Yeah.
and answering from really from age 23 to 75, a couple in their 75. I had to set up their iPad with ChatGPT. But I think
Yeah.
making it accessible and approachable is important because the NAR study showed that about 20% of agents use AI every day. And that's actually a big number because the last I checked, and I think it was late August of last year, and they're going to get more recent numbers, but September, August, it said about 11% of Americans in the US use AI every day. And people don't know it, it's growing fast. But if you're at 20% of industry, we're early adopters. We embraced this right away because we saw what it could do for us. And most people really did it for content, right? They did it for blog posts, email newsletters, social content, website copy. Biggest one, listing descriptions, but now that can be automated for us with the technology that protects us from any of the fair housing laws or the
Yeah.
individual words MLSs would rather not you use. Um, and so a lot of people used it for, market explanations and market reports and all that, but it does a lot more than content. And I think that's the big wow moment with people. And then the big trend that I think agents are really interested in, I just came, I was at one of the last things I did, it was the NAR convention next in November. That was my last convention of the year. And I went to every AI session and sat in AI roundtables and talked to agents and listened to them. And the big thing everybody's really looking at, and I think 2026 this year is the year, is GEO, which is generative engine optimization. Now, I have a caveat in this. I've written about it very extensively in my blog posts at Wave and in my newsletter. GEO is not yet replaced SEO. In fact, they work in partnership. And a lot of the
Right.
things you do with SEO are the exact same things you need to do with GEO. But there's a few other things you can do with GEO to establish your authenticity, your expertise. And you just need to work on those together. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of SEO. You don't want your brokerage to ever do that. But you do want to be where you are with all of the listings that you have in all the places that they are and make sure that information is up to date and consistent. Any of the portals you're on, everything should be the same descriptions and the same things. When you're writing a blog, make sure you add a 3 FAQ at the bottom that are related but not repetitive. That establish your expertise and authority.
Yeah.
Work in your blog post, local stuff, right? I'm a real estate, my friend, I'm a real estate agent on Bainbridge Island, Washington. I'm a waterfront expert. Those are the things you need to do to be seen by AI. The generative searches that are going on are building rapidly. And so you not only want to be visible when somebody Google searches, but as people use AI more and more to search, and Google recognizes by putting summaries right at the top. But I think people need to be found. And if they're not found, they're going to be a ghost. So if they're not creating content in different formats everywhere throughout the web, if they're not establishing their reputation through reviews on all the different channels, they need to, because if not, AI is not going to see you. And that means your potential customers aren't going to be able to find
Yeah.
you in the same way.
So, quick comment there. I think that's a great takeaway. Is how do you evolve to be found on AI search? And I agree with you wholeheartedly that SEO best practices of EEAT still apply to this.
Yep.
Maybe you need to
Yep.
format the content a little bit. To your point, the FAQs, listicles, AI likes like structured content a little bit.
Yes.
Last week we had Michael Perna from EXP out of Detroit, one of the top teams in the country, and he was very early with embracing AI, and he's got 3,000 reviews on Google, so
Yeah.
he's embraced the Google stuff. He's embraced SEO early on, so he shared some stats, which should be the reason you should kind of think about doing this. Early on, he said he used to get like 1 or 2 inquiries a month from ChatGPT, and they're usually bottom of the funnel, which is like they're very close to
Right.
transacting, like they're
Right.
very serious people.
Right.
And he says now I get 4 to 6 inquiries a month, like from AI versus 1 to 2 a month, and it's only gonna accelerate as people,
Yeah.
right? And
It absolutely is. And I think, even though only 1% of all search is going to Google from ChatGPT right now, it's a small number.
yeah,
ChatGPT has small numbers compared to the Google world that exists. when Google decides that Gemini needs to be front and center in their search, you know things are changing. And agents,
Change it,
I
yeah.
hear all the time it's the same story, Rajeev, that they want to be found on AI. They want to understand how to do that. But they're using it for a lot of different things. And it's really interesting that the biggest challenge is to tell agents the truth, and that's not to use these tools for free unless you're experimenting with them and not putting in any personal information for you or your clients. So you
Yeah.
can go out and use tools like HeyGen and do your own video avatar, and you can go to Suno and you can test a song and see if it's worth the monthly fee that you'd pay. You can go to Canva and try a lot of these tools out because a lot of them are connected to that, $10 a month account that you get from Canva, which has all these cool AI tools. They're limited. You don't have unlimited. All these things cost, but it's worth the investment. So when you find those tools, whether it's cloning your voice for a podcast, I'd rather see Rajeev, a real Rajeev, than see his AI because I can tell when it's AI. But
Yeah.
soon you may not be able to. It's getting so good so fast, as you mentioned, but I think it's really important that people understand on the free accounts, you're the product. And you really need to pay for the things that you're going to use professionally. You do for everything else you have. You pay for your
Yeah, for
CMA
sure.
tool or you pay for your own all-in-one platform. You've got to be careful and be very safe and responsible as you approach AI.
Yeah.
And
I
the
think
biggest thing is make sure you understand that these free things really come with a cost.
the point is a key point you're making. One is you try before you buy, but just don't use the free ones for a long time and feel like that will give you that's the be all end all.
Right.
And it's sort of like I feel like AI subscriptions have gone the way of like my home streaming subscriptions now, right? You got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got all these things at home, and not all things are available on the same platform. So you almost have to sort of pick your AI tech stack.
Yes.
And to your point, go deeper and figure out how much ChatGPT can do, and then know like it cannot clone voices. So if that's important to you, you got to go somewhere else. So I think that's finding your journey and your bearings. I think is an important takeaway. So GEO, and then paid AI tools. What if you had to recommend? I may be going off script, but this is very organic, and you live this stuff. So if you had to recommend top 3 AI tools. Again, well, let's talk to the mid tier of agents. I mean, there's people
Sure.
that do specific stuff that, you
Right.
know, what would your top 3 AI tools be for agents that they should simply go pay and go deep in?
Well, of course, ChatGPT business, and I pay the $50 a month because I really,
Yeah.
and Canva, I got to tell you, I still tell them, the people there, they should really give me a commission because I think Canva's the best $10 anybody's. And then the other one is
Yeah.
really specific to what you're going to do. An example is if you want to do a unique closing gift. When I first went into Suno and tried that song creation thing, I can't tell you how many times I've used it. And I haven't come near to running out of credits, but the creativity, I've been able to go to an annual meeting for the Midwest Board of Realtors in a Chicagoland area for NASBAR and do a song for their opening meeting that was
Yeah.
named all the people in the room and what they did and how they did it. And they were blown away. And there was one mistake. And so I sent it to them. It took me 5 minutes to correct. And they're like, how did you do that? Oh my gosh. So it's the things that do the oh wow that are really good. I mean, a lot of my colleagues or a lot of agents that I meet and my colleagues in this world are using HeyGen or recommending HeyGen. I've tried it, and I think tools like that, the biggest problem I have is that the average agent out there doesn't have time to learn these things. It doesn't take 5 minutes to create an avatar. It does take 5 minutes in an art list, or 11 Labs takes 20 to create your clone voice. And if you want to clone your voice because you just don't have the time to do these things and you can give an assistant to do it, that could be very good. But disclosure is important. If you're using AI, don't be afraid to tell your clients you're using it in the way that you're using it. It's not replacing you, it's amplifying you. It's giving you the
100%.
ability to do more stuff. And so the tools that I look at, I hate to recommend just one that's not like can do many,
Yeah.
many things because I think that's hard for agents, like you said, to have 27 different $20, $10 a month subscriptions to these things. And then you only use them once every 3 or 4 months. That
Right.
doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I think I think what's going to happen, Rajeev, I think we're going to get all-in-one AI platforms to have all these tools in one place. It just doesn't make sense. This happened with the app world, right? We had all these disparate things, and all of a sudden, the all-in-one platforms got wise and went, well, we could give you the CRM, we could give you the CMA, we can give you the flyers and the websites and all these things. And I think that's the direction that things need to go into, because we need the gates and guardrails. A lot of these tools do not have those. A lot of these chat GPT tools that will connect to your things like your Gmail or something like that. It's not that I don't trust OpenAI or I don't trust Google. I don't trust that little widget in between by the Ukraine developer that I've never heard of. It doesn't tell me what he does with the data. That's where I think people get in risk. They find these really cool tools that they say, oh, this is going to be the big time saver for me, but they don't know the downside of that. And I think it's really important to go in wise open. That's why I'm hopeful that big companies, and I think OpenAI will do more stuff. Look what it's doing with video and Sora. It was initially 3 seconds, right? We had 3-second videos, and they're getting longer and they're getting easier to do. They're getting better. I did ask the speaker, I have to tell you this, at the last NAR convention, I was like, if AI is so smart, why can't it spell? Because all of his video clips had, social media posts and all that, and nothing was spelled right. It was all made up words. It was all AI is not, he goes, well, it's getting better. And that's true. AI is getting better, but people can see when it is. So don't be afraid to disclose that you're using AI to actually have more time for your customers and more time for yourself. I think that's also
for
important.
sure. The point you make is, if you see a misspelling, it also calls out that human has to be in the loop. Like you got to work on correcting things, not just with content, with video. You can show a misspelled thing on stage to just prove a point, but the point is you're still in the loop. Your agent, your amplified intelligence. Recently we had on our 100th episode, Kevin, on December 3rd.
Congratulations, by the
We
way.
we had Steve Brown.
He's great.
From
I know.
Google DeepMind.
Yep.
And I know you quoted him in the book, and he's very centric to using this as amplified intelligence. That theme,
Yeah, I
resonates.
stole his term because the minute I heard it, I said that's actually what it is.
Perfect. Yeah, amplified. It's your second brain. It's not your only brain.
Yeah.
So I think that's good takeaways. GEO, go deep with pay for tools. ChatGPT does a lot of things. It'll do a lot more. And I love something else.
One more. Gemini is getting better and better, and I got a
I
shout
tell
out
you,
to
I think
Nano
Google's
Banana.
caught up. Personally, I feel like Google's caught up.
If they're not, they're catching up. And what
so
they're
close.
doing,
They're so close.
I agree. I think on content creation, they still lag. And we just use it all the time, so we compare. But I'll tell you this, what we recommend, the best practice is to take and create the image first in ChatGPT, because the original image creation right now, this may change 2 weeks from now, but then iterate. Only place in the world to iterate is in Gemini. That Nano Banana technology is the other night, during the football season, the other night during the final playoffs, we're changing the jerseys of our family members to our favorite team and sending them out in a chat on Gemini because it's so fast.
Yeah, 100%. Recently, I was at a game, Sunday night game between Detroit Lions and the Eagles, and I was going to wear a Jalen Hurts jersey anyway going in, so I put up a picture on Nana Banana, and I said, change the jersey, and I'm walking to the stadium kind of thing. And I posted it on Facebook. You should look it up. It's pretty good.
Yeah, my nephew was at that game because he's from Philly, and I sent him a picture of himself in a Seahawks jersey just to tease the heck out of him, because he sent me one in the Eagles jersey, and I changed it to him. And I said, thanks you for supporting our very bad playing lately Hawks. So
well, hey, so. The other piece that, Google, look, every week there's a new advancement. Nobody has a crystal ball, but we do believe there's different tools that do certain things really well. And I think it's a great place to start with ChatGPT and kind of expand your horizons as your work, what you're doing in real estate changes, evolves, etc. The whole goal of collapsing time, amplified intelligence, because your consumers are using AI as well. So you need to get ahead of how you present this to clients. So a great takeaway is there. Anything else that let's switch our attention in the interest of time. Let's switch our attention to brokerages and leaders supporting agents. And how do what's your perspective on real estate companies? Let's focus on real brokerages
Sure,
primarily.
absolutely,
Real estate
absolutely.
companies that want to reinvent and be AI forward, AI native, whatever the terminology we want to use. But how do you transform fundamentally? How do you think about that from a brokerage perspective?
Yeah, the biggest technology there, and my partners, Victor Lund, the founding partner of Wave, and David Gumper, who's the CTO, who I know you know, are
Yeah.
both leaning heavily into MCP, which is
Yeah.
really it's. I don't like to get too technical with folks, but it's basically a server and then contained in a data lake where it's only pulling from your sovereign data as a brokerage. And I
Yeah.
think that's really the future. Anthropic, which is the makers of Claude, are the one that created this technology. And in both the brokerage and the MLS world, this is the next phase because AI is not what we have to worry about. Unsupervised AI is what we have to worry about. And the thing that this does is really prevent the kinds of things that drive us crazy when we use AI, when they make mistakes on a regular basis, where we have to double check everything. When it's pulling from just your information and it's set up just to be specialized for a task like onboarding or training, personalized training, or a chat that only answers questions about the things that your brokerages does.
Yeah. 100%.
It's really, it's a game changer. And I think that's where the big direction is right now, is in
Yeah.
brokerages realizing that they've got to find solutions so their agents they don't get risk. They don't put their agents at risk. I
Yeah.
think that's so
100%.
important today.
100%. So that's a great takeaway for brokerages. I mean, I think if you're listening to this podcast, if you're an agent or a brokerage, and if you don't know what MCP is, let's kind of level set it. MCP is Model Context Protocol that was invented by Anthropic as a way to share data, put AI overlay among your data. So another way to look at this is we all have a USB hub at home. Like I have an Apple Mac that I plug the hub into, and then I plug all sorts of things into the hub. That sort of so think of that hub as your MCP
Yep.
server that Kevin talks about, and it can take all sorts of data, and I choose what I plug into it, so you have full control of that whole process. And so it's easy to literally in a few weeks you can stand up an MCP server and build a use case and test it. And that's the speed at which we're seeing. And again, this could be a whole episode, and we could do a whole
Yeah.
episode on MCP and
Exactly.
brokerages. But
Absolutely. You
as
should get
leaders,
Victor on.
yeah, yeah, eventually we will, I'm sure. At this point, when I get to 200 and 300 episodes, we'll have everybody in the industry on. So, but we're on a journey here, so for sure. So, if you're a brokerage leader, think about how you can add value and build that easy button for your agents, right? I mean, that's the whole
That's the
goal
best
here.
way to
So,
describe it. That is what
right?
they need.
Yeah, 100%. So, let's get to the final two questions, Kevin, that I ask all
Sure.
my guests. Um, before we do that, let's do a
Oh,
little
there's a book.
piece on your book. Because
Yeah,
the
and the only
question
thing I
was
was
going to
going to say
be,
is,
well,
yeah,
no,
the
the
only thing
question
I was
was going to be,
okay.
yeah, my question to you was, are you a book or a podcast person? Number one.
I'm a book person.
Book person, okay.
I'm a book
Besides
person.
your book, we're going to get to this. Besides your book, give me one book that has probably deeply influenced you more than other books that you
You've
feel
never
like
heard of it.
it's okay. I,
So
it's
it's
fine.
it's not even in print. I'll just be really quick. And by the way, the best takeaway for my book is for also people who've never touched AI. It has what I trademarked, the 7-day AI challenge, and it's 7 days to get really used to AI. And I think that's one of the most valuable takeaway for
100%.
people who are afraid of AI. And by the way, that's why I wear the Hawaiian shirt. If anybody wants to know why I wear a Hawaiian shirt, have you ever been afraid of anybody wearing a Hawaiian shirt? No.
It's
I mean,
true.
don't be afraid of AI. Embrace it.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I had was a book called First Impressions, Best Impressions by a Dr. Janet Elsley. And it was a long time ago. You can only find it in, sale bookstores. But it had an experience for me of I was a young executive and I was kind of a little bit too pushy and a little too aggressive. And Great Western said, we need to put you in a seminar with this woman one-on-one and get you back on track. And that book changed my whole career trajectory because I learned that the most important thing really is the life lessons out of that I got was
Yeah.
I really needed to listen more and talk less. I really needed to really appreciate this idea of not having to take my ideas and just throw them on to people to ask what had been done, because it turns out they already did that and it didn't work. So that was the biggest book. And then anything by Jimmy Buffett, because I love his, the late, great Jimmy Buffett has great books. People don't realize what a great author he was about changing, about change, how to adapt to it, how to take risk, how to live life to the fullest and enjoy stuff. That's my beacon.
No, I think that's great takeaways there. We'll put a link to that book in the show notes. And Kevin's book, by the way, is The Real AI Guide for Real Estate Agents. And hopefully you got that whole, here we go. You got that whole theme from Kevin's podcast today, is that no hype, no BS, just real ChatGPT skills you'll use every day. And it's worth, and I think maybe the takeaway for agents is to take up a 7-day challenge. I talk about a 30-day challenge, but do something different every day with AI that you haven't done before. So it sort of becomes your light bulb moment, and you go chase more light bulb moments. So it becomes a journey. And so this is a good book. I just got it. I started digging into it. But it's worth for your.
It must be pretty good, because in just 2 weeks it became an Amazon bestseller for real estate sales book. So I'm honored that I could say that.
Congratulations!
I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, congratulations and continued success, and also your background and what you bring to the industry. And it takes a village, as you know, Kevin. It takes a village to make AI approachable and actionable for the whole industry. And keep up your yeoman's work in this space. And I hope to talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
The key takeaways from Kevin for me were to pay attention to GEO, or generative engine optimization, or AI search, but not at the expense of SEO. Start writing content or blogging that AI cares about. Next, pay for AI tools, but don't subscribe to too many. Start with ChatGPT and expand from there. Lastly, if you're a brokerage leader, think about how to leverage AI foundationally with your data using MCP solutions that deliver the easy button for your agents. If you found value in this episode, follow the show so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry and leave us a review, as it helps us reach more professionals like you.